Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and as promised, this video is part 2 of the Pocket Traveler's Notebook that I've been working on. And so what I decided to do last minute sort of was to make the insert from the companion Thinlits die that you can get as part of the Caitlin Lazardi Pocket Traveler's Notebook Biggs die. The Biggs die, I think they've discontinued it, so I don't think you can buy it from Sizzix anymore, but I was actually able to find it new on eBay, and I was so lucky to find it because I've had the Thinlits die for so long, but I haven't actually crafted with it because I was waiting to get the Biggs die. The Biggs die creates the Traveler's Notebook cover. If you missed that video, I'll pop a link to it in the upper right hand corner or in the description box below. And that's fantastic, and we'll cut the covers, and I think there's a couple of other dies on that Biggs die as well, that cut out pockets and whatnot. But the Thinlits die set will enable you to cut and make your own inserts that perfectly fit into the Traveler's Notebook. I'm making this as a gift for a crafty friend of mine here on YouTube. Her channel name is Stamper Girl. You may, if you have caught any of my live streams, we often do craft and chats, and so you may know her from there as well. Her name is Delise, and so what I decided to do was I wanted to make this just like a little folder insert. It's not really, this isn't going to be a little notebook, but certainly there is this Thinlits die that lets you cut out. Well, there's two ways you can make this. You could either fold your pattern paper or regular paper in half if you want, like I've done, and then you can line it up so that this die that cuts out this page here, it doesn't, that folded edge is actually inside the cut line, and that way you don't cut your folded edge. So you could assemble the cover that way, or the little insert cover that way, or there is that other die which you see, that long narrow one there. You could use that as a hinge and actually cut out your two cover pieces, insert covers in completely separately without that folded edge, and then use the hinge to attach them, which can be kind of cool, gives you a little bit of a different look. I'm going to reinforce this fold with some Tyvek. So this, if you've ever seen me make a mini album or anything like that before, anything that I want to last and be, a little bit durable, I like to use Tyvek to reinforce working hinges. So any fold that's going to get open and closed. And Tyvek, if you're not familiar with it, is a material that is tear resistant and water resistant. The water resistant factor or characteristic doesn't really matter too much. It's that tear resistance, because this is just one layer of paper folded, and if we want it to be durable and long lasting, then having Tyvek will help with that, because that Tyvek, you can't really tear it by hand. It's really hard to do. And in fact, this is material that they wrap new construction houses with. More, they use it in that case for kind of weatherproofing a little bit, because it is water resistant. So this is strong stuff. This is durable stuff. If you don't want to buy it because you don't make a lot of mini albums or projects where you feel like you would need a lot of it, then you could always, sometimes when you order packages, they come in Tyvek envelopes. FedEx, I know for sure there are FedEx envelopes that are made from Tyvek. I think USPS probably, I think their priority mail envelopes are made from Tyvek too. So you might be able to find in the course of just, ordering things online and having stuff shipped to you, that they may come in a Tyvek envelope. And so what you can do is just save some of that, and it will be printed on one side because it'll be branded by whatever shipping company. But you can always just use the other side of it. And most of the time when I'm using Tyvek, I'm not actually looking for that as a visual component. I'm actually most of the time going to be covering it up. So the fact that it's printed on one side may not really matter too much because you'll be covering it up at least if you use it the way I use it. And because I use it so often in my mini albums and projects like these, I do buy them in these strips. These are actually connected wristband strips. They come in 10-inch lengths, and they're connected because they're meant to be used for events. Like when you go to an event and they put a little wristband on you to show that, you've paid your ticket, or you have some level of ticket that gives you access to other things, for example. And so they're connected in sheets that you can then just run through the printer. But the sheets have, they're like they're mostly perforated through, and the connection between, one strip to the other, it's very, very thin. So that's why I'm able to actually tear it, because it's been so perforated. It's like hanging on literally by, little threads down the length of the strip. But otherwise you wouldn't, if for a whole sheet, you wouldn't really be able to tear through it. And so that's how I like to buy them, because it's just convenient. And I should have a link to it in my description box below as part of my standard supplies section, because I use it so often and I get asked so often about it. So it is available in a variety of colors. I carry in my craft room the basics. Like I like having white, black to match my page bases or album bases. But black is really versatile in the sense that if any portion of it is visible, it kind of looks like it's just shadow. Like, so it doesn't stand out. White is fantastic because you can also color your strips. So I've actually started, on some projects, I've actually colored it with my alcohol markers to match my project. And so that's an option as well. And then you don't have to buy, a ton of colors. So I do want this little folder insert to have a little bit of, feel a little bit more substantial than just the one layer of cardstock. Plus I need to cover my Tyvek strips. So I've cut those pages as single pages out of just plain solid color cardstock. And I did position when I cut the papers, the brown paper, I did position it so that it's a 1/16 of an inch or so away from that fold. And that way you can still fold this down nice and flat. If you folded it to the exact, or if you die cut the whole panel, you could always just trim it down, but you will need to trim it a little bit if you don't offset your die cutting, because you don't want to have any of that paper cross over that fold line. It's going to make it really hard to fold this down if you do. And I'm taking a little bit of time to ink the edges because the pattern paper is white core. So I'm just using some of my black ink just to give it a little bit of a cleaner edge, and that way that white core of the pattern paper doesn't show quite as much. I'm not looking to do any serious vignetting, but it does help to kind of bring your eyes towards the center when the outside edges are darker and the center is a little bit brighter. At least to my eyes are often a little bit more attracted to where the brighter areas are. And especially when it's the darker areas are kind of, framing something. The thinless die also comes with a die that cuts out a little pocket here. This pocket's kind of cool. It's got a slot in the middle, so you can actually slot things in there and then put taller things in the back pocket, and they will all drop to the bottom of the pocket. So that's kind of convenient. This is how I like to attach it. I do like to put a bit of Scotch tape across the bottom glue tab. And the reason for that is because of that glue tab, sometimes you could be putting something in and it won't actually go all the way to the bottom of the pocket. It'll get caught, on that extra layer or that extra thickness of the glue tab. And so I find that if you just run a bit of Scotch tape right over that, then whatever you put into the pocket, it's a nice smooth transition between thicknesses of paper. So it'll just glide right over that Scotch tape, and you can get things more easily all the way down into the pocket. It's just a weird pet peeve of mine when and professional products are assembled without that little bit of detail, and it is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine when I put something in and it keeps on getting stuck, or caught on that little glue tab. So it's just a little finishing detail. You don't really have to do it. Like I said, products that I buy that are manufactured don't take that into account, because really in the manufacturing process, like, that's gonna add a lot of time. so that's why they don't do it. But that's why handmade is so nice, because you can address these things, because you don't have to build an automated process or a mass production process to do this. You can take the time to do these little finishing touches. And the other thing is that that little bit of Scotch tape, even though this is a hinge that isn't going to open and close, it does add a little bit of strength to the bottom of that pocket. So not that you're gonna put anything heavy in there, or, like I said, it's not a working hinge that's gonna open and close, but it will add a little bit of strength to the bottom there. But I mostly do it for the reason I noted, just the having the ability to slide something in all the way to the bottom easily. It's just such a small thing, but it for me is like a pet peeve, like I said. Okay, so that's the inside, just a couple of pockets, and what I thought would be really fun is to make this little insert as a place where my friend can actually put a photo of her daughter on the cover of this little insert, and that way, if she's taking this to work with her, or, wherever she takes it, she'll have a little photo of her daughter with her at all times. So I thought I will use this new postage stamp die set from Amazing Paper Grace and Spellbinders, and it's really fantastic. So what I love about this set is that you get the postage border die, and you can get it in a lot of different shapes too, but of course I like the classic. If we're talking postage stamps, I kind of like the square format. And so you have the die that cuts out that postage border, but then in each of the sizes you have an additional square die that cuts out a square with pierced dot border design, so that you can create frames like I'm doing here, but then the square that gets cut out to create this aperture of the frame. That you can see that piece off to the left there under my hand. It has a really nice pierced dot border design, so then you already have a die cut that you can use, on another project if you want, or in a different way on the same project. It's a nice finished, edge with some lovely border detailing. So really, really fantastic. And as you can see, there are 4 different sizes and 4 pairs of dies. So, each having, like I mentioned, the postage stamp border, and then a smaller one for the square with the pierced dot border. And if you're not creating a frame like I'm doing here, you can use the smaller square die as a matte layer on top. And that's another way to kind of build up or create a similar look of having a frame. So this is going to be a little photo frame that she can just slot her photo in. And so I've just put some clear acetate behind the gold frame that I've cut out. And I did use just the postage stamp border die to cut out of some heavyweight white cardstock. That was that first layer. And that will give me, that way I can kind of make this a complete unit. And also I can actually stamp the because you could just, I guess, use the frame with the acetate and then attach that directly to your insert cover. But I wanted to stamp this place photo here instruction, and that way she knows like what that's meant for. It's not just like a decorative little frame on the insert cover, but it's actually there's some function to it. And so by having that white blank behind there, on the one hand, if she didn't want to put a photo there, it doesn't look so great. Whereas if you attach the frame directly to the journal cover without having that white piece behind it, then whether or not they decide to put a photo behind there, it still kind of looks good. It just looks like an interesting design where you have an empty frame. But it's going to be pattern paper behind the aperture, so it'll still look kind of neat. So I guess there's just a little bit of a trade-off there, just depending on what you prefer. To attach this to my white backing piece, I am putting adhesive, really thin adhesive strips that I cut down to the left and right sides and the bottom. You want to leave the top open because you want to be able to slot the photo in. And I used my low profile foam. This is 1mm thick foam. The reason for that is so that it's easy to slip a photo in there, and a little bit easier if ever she wanted to swap the photo out and pull it out. That little extra thickness, because you don't need a lot. I wouldn't use like a 2 to 3mm foam because you don't want the photo to slide out. Once the photo is in, it should still be rather snug and nice and secure. But if you use foam that's a little too thick, it could slide out. And if you don't have 1mm foam, what you could do instead is just cut an extra layer of cardstock, for example, and use that as the spacer. So plenty of different options for that, but I find having just that little bit of extra thickness there will make it a little bit more usable. So here's the Traveler's Notebook pocket size that I created earlier in a separate video, and because this does have a 4th strip, I think it's a little too tight because the double strip is in the center. I think it's too tight to add a 4th notebook in there. I feel like it would make it a little too cramped. But adding this insert though is I think fits just fine because it's thin right now. The pockets aren't that deep. They're not gusseted, so you're not going to be able to really put a lot in there, but I think it's great just to maybe hold a couple of things, maybe some receipts or notes that you want to, loose notes that you want to keep or whatever. And I just last minute, I just wanted to change up the order of things because this having a photo of her daughter, I thought it might be nicer to see that earlier rather than bury it deeper into the notebook. And so that's nice and tucked in there between the first and second notebooks. So really, really fun. These are easy to create. Not a lot of paper, as you can see, and it's a really nice practical gift if you want to make them for holiday gift giving, because they are pretty easy to make and fast to put together. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. It really helps to get my videos out there to other folks who might enjoy it as well. If you're already subscribed to my channel, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, and hopefully, if you're still watching, you might want to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and get notified whenever I post new videos. Thank you again, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.